Hi, and thanks for joining me today. I've got in front of me an advent calendar that I just finished. Actually, I just finished making two. So I'll show them in separate videos because they are constructed a little bit differently, each of them. So getting into this one, it's 8.5 wide by 11 tall. And on the outside, the spine, and the back cover, I've used Dress My Crafts paper pad. I don't remember exactly the name of it, but on the front, I've just got some simple shaped poinsettia flowers. And this actually came from a Dress My Crafts die set as well, which I really like because it had, I think, 6 leaves in various shapes and sizes, and oh wait, that's the 6 flower shapes in different sizes, and then 3 leaves in different sizes. So a lot of different choices to kind of layer up, and you can make different sized flowers. And otherwise, I kept the cover pretty simple. I just wanted this little flower grouping to sort of mimic the flowers that are printed on the paper itself. I've got some ribbon that says, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." And getting right into the folio, these little buttons are actually, I got on Spellbinders. It was super clearance, down to I think $1, and it's from Fun Stamper's Journey. And you get all 24 buttons. They're really super cute, the perfect size for these little boxes. And the papers on the boxes are from Authentique. They're, I think it's the Rejoice paper pad, and the red and green paper in the background, that's from Photoplay, and then the paper in the center here is Prima Marketing's Christmas in the Country. So a little kind of hodgepodge of different Christmas paper pads that I have, and they don't strictly all go together, but I think it all works in the end. So the reason why I had to kind of mix and match a little bit was because the Authentique Rejoice paper pad had a lot of papers, about all of them were sort of these repeating patterns, and none of them had sort of large prints or sentiments or anything like that that could be used for a nice cover similar to this. And so I use those for just the boxes because they're really pretty. I think on display is at least one of each of the unique designs. And same with the Photoplay paper. Great sort of muted colors for Christmas, but it was just solids and patterns. So I wanted to have some graphical elements to it. And so that's why I decided to use the Prima Marketing and the Dress My Crafts paper pad and mix those in a little bit. So these boxes are really cute. So they're glued right onto the back, but they each have a lid that you can pull off. So you'll just have to kind of hunt for the day as you count down to Christmas, and we'll put little treats or whatever. I guess it's usually candies, and what I read online was sometimes you'll put Bible verses in there. So my husband and I will probably do a little bit of a mix, maybe just throw in some fun jokes or sayings occasionally, just to mix it up so that you're not always getting a sweet treat. And these will be Christmas presents that go out to some of our family. And I am trying to get these all done by Thanksgiving so that I can actually send them out before December 1st, with a note to say that, well, it's their Christmas present, they can open it right away. That way they can actually use the advent calendar this holiday season. And similarly, you may have heard me mention that I'm making Christmas card packs to give as gifts. And so I'll be including a pack of maybe 10 Christmas cards, also with a note to open it right away, because then they'll have some Christmas cards to kind of get them started for whatever cards they're sending out this year, as opposed to having to kind of just hang on to it for like an entire full year before they can actually use it. So trying to get all of these Christmas items done by Thanksgiving, but it's good because I'm getting a really good head start on it. So that's this. The boxes are really the crux of this, and I can show you how to make the box. It's actually pretty easy. So let me get into that. Okay, so to make the box for this advent calendar, let me show you again what it looks like. So you've got the bottom of the box, which you'll need a piece of cardstock that is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So that's going to be our bottom. And for the lid, you'll need a piece of cardstock that's 6 inches by 6 inches. So the method that I'm going to show you, though, you can really make any size box that you want. Just need to start off with a square sheet of cardstock, and whatever size you want your box to be for the bottom, just measure 1/4 of an inch less. So you can see the bottom piece is just a little bit smaller all the way around. And the reason for that is once everything's folded up, there's going to be a couple of layers of thickness here, a couple of layers of thickness here. So for the lid to fit nicely into the bottom, you want the bottom piece of cardstock to start off a little bit smaller. So in effect, this is a little bit smaller than the lid, and that's what's going to allow it to fit snugly in. Now, that may need to be tweaked a little bit, just depending on the thickness of cardstocks that you're using. I don't know the exact thickness of the authentic paper, but for the bottom, I chose 65-pound cover weight cardstock. So just a light layering weight cardstock, because it folds really easily, it doesn't crack, keeps it relatively thin, so it's not going to add a lot of extra bulk. Okay, so then how do you make one of these boxes? I like to use my scoreboard, which happens to have one of these envelope scoring attachments, and that lets you score on a diagonal. So what I do is I'm just gonna take a ruler, and on one edge I'm just gonna measure the center of my panel here. So this is 6 inches wide, so the center point is going to be 3 inches. And lightly, just going to give myself a little tick mark at the 3-inch mark. And once I have that mark, I'm going to take that and I'm going to line it up. So my envelope template here has this notch for where you score. At least that's how I use it. And so I'm going to put that mark right where that score begins, where this notch for scoring is. And I'm just going to make a note of where the end of my cardstock lines up on this scale here, the diagonal scale. And it happens to be 2 5/8. So for every score line that I score, I just need to line up the edge of my paper at 2 5/8. So really, once you have this dimension figured out, you only need to do that the one time, the very first time that you're making this size box. And every sheet, for example, the advent calendar has 24 boxes. I don't have to make this tick mark on each of the 24. Once I know that the 2 5/8 inch mark is where I need to line up my cardstock on the diagonal and start scoring. So then I'll just start here, hold everything snug, rotate, line this up at 2 5/8, and as a double check, where you just scored, it should land right here. So that should meet up. Your previous score line will meet up right there, and that's how you'll have a nice little double check. On pattern paper, it's a little bit harder to see, so I find it's just easier to line up the edge with this ruler here. So I've scored all 4 ways around, and the other thing to note is that if you do have pattern paper that's pretty on both sides, especially if it's single-sided, you want the pretty side facing upwards. That way you're going to be able to fold with your score lines and keep, the integrity of the paper nice and strong and still get a nice crisp edge. So I can take my scoreboard away and scored everything, and I'm gonna give all these edges a good burnish. You can see everything meets up in the center, except for this one looks a little bit off, so I'll just nudge it a little bit. But to be honest, there's a lot of wiggle room for forgiveness. You don't have to be super perfect. Okay, now that that's done, what you want to do is fold each edge into the center. So I'm going to start on top and bottom. So I'm just going to take this edge, bring it to the center where all of these corners meet in the middle, and burnish. This authentic paper, it takes a fold so well. I mean, I'm burnishing really aggressively and no cracks, no anything, and it's just really nice to work with. This is the first time I think I've used authentic paper, so I'm really happy with it. I kind of want to make some mini albums with it. Oh, okay, so then I've done that. I'm going to open this back up, and then on the other 2 sides, I'm going to do the same thing. Just fold it, the edge right into the center. Just line everything up so that it's all, straight. And give that a good burnish. Okay, so got everything folded, nicely burnished. What I like to do is just pull these 2 edges out. Then we need to make a few snips. So I'm going to be cutting right along this fold, and I'm only cutting from the edge until it hits the next fold. So really just this portion here, and I'll do that on both sides. And you'll know when to stop because you're basically from here to here cutting through 2 pieces of paper, and then that's where you want to stop. Once you feel the pressure lessen, then stop cutting, because at that point you're cutting 1 sheet of paper and you've gone too far. So just cut until, see, I haven't cut all the way and this is still attached. We want to cut it so that it's completely detached. So there we go. See how now it's completely detached? That's how far you want to go, but not further than that. So on the other side, do the same thing. Just cut until you feel you've reached the end. Now I've got this basically. You want to do the same thing to this. I'm just going to turn it all the way around and make those same cuts. Alright, so once that's done, I like to open everything up and just with some double-sided adhesive, it doesn't have to be anything super strong. We just want to hold things down, so you don't need your expensive red line or score tape. I'm just using just plain old double-sided tape here. You could use a tape runner too, that works. And I'll take this up. Alright, so the sides that have these extra little tabs, you want to go ahead and fold that back in and just tack those corners down into your glue. And then the two tabs, fold that in, give it another good burnish just to train these folds so that they have some memory of being in this position. And then what you want to do is bring the sides up, hold those together, and then just wrap this up and around, and then push this all the way down, pinch it. And I like to kind of rub my fingernail right in this crease here, and then rub that in the center so that it makes contact with your double-sided adhesive. So on the other side, same thing. Go ahead and bring those edges in, up, around, pinch it tight, rub your fingernail in there, and then your lid is done. So what I like to do just to make sure that everything is making good contact with the adhesive and also has good corners is take the flat end of my bone folder and I just rub burnish edge to edge, pushing right into those corners. Okay, and there you have it. So nice lid. So what how can you do this if you don't have a scoreboard or one of those diagonal envelope sort of add-ons? You don't necessarily need all of that fancy stuff. So what you can do is take your ruler. Now we're starting, this is the bottom piece, so this is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and I'm going to start off the same way where I find the center point and I give myself a little tick mark. So half of 5 3/4 is 2 7/8, and I'm going to do that all 4 edges. So 2 7/8, 2 7/8, and 2 7/8. Let me double check that first one. I don't know why, I think I might have said 2 5/8. Yeah, I marked that wrong. That would have made a difference. Let me erase the incorrect one. Okay, so we've found the center point. So you can see we've found the center point on all 4 of our edges and we gave ourselves a little tick mark. Okay, so then what you can do is I just take my embossing mat from my die cutting machine and my ruler, and I'm just gonna line up from center point to center point. using my bone folder, I'm going to score. And I'll do that all the way around. So the reason for the embossing mat is so that you have something soft to push into, and that allows you to put a score line in that's going to be a deeper impression than if you were to just score on something that was hard like the cutting mat. Of course, if you don't have one of these, like a mouse pad would work, or fun foam. If you have fun foam, that could work. If you do any 3D flower shaping and you have one of those shaping mats, that would totally work too. And if not, you can always just score on something hard, whatever you've got. So our scoring is done. We didn't use a scoreboard. We didn't use the fancy envelope template. And we're going to do the same thing. Just fold on your score lines and give a good burnish. Before I get too far, let me erase my pencil marks, because these, actually, if you're doing the advent calendar, this is the bottom and it won't get seen anyways, but anyhow, so everything is scored and folded, so now we'll burnish. Okay, and now we're at the exact same point as before, and we didn't have to use a scoreboard or anything. So we take each of the 4 sides, just bring it into the center. And I just eyeball the center being where all these 4 corners meet. Give it a good burnish. And I always do the 2 opposite ends, because then once you have the first one done, you just bring the other one to meet up with that first one. Open this up, and then same thing on the other 2 sides. If you're working with thicker cardstock, you could kind of bend this back and forth a little just to make it a little bit softer and easier to fold. But that's why I like using the 65-pound weight cardstock, because it's not that thick. So because you're folding through 2 layers of cardstock here. I think the authentic paper, pattern paper, it feels like it's heavier than 65. It might be 80. Okay. Our all 4 sides have been folded into the center. I like to pull 2 sides out, and we're going to make our snips. So we're just going to cut from the edge up till it hits the next score line, and basically until these 2 pieces are detached here, and not further than that. Give that a good cut. And then flip it 180, do the same thing on the other side, opposite side. Okay, I like to open that up and then put a little bit of double-sided adhesive down. The ends that have the tabs, go ahead and fold those back in and push those triangles so that they make contact with the adhesive. Then the ends, you want to fold these in, give them another little burnish, make sure everything's going to be nice and crisp edges. Okay, bring your sides in and the bottom up and around. Pinch it tight and just push that edge in and push the flap down. Sides in, bring the flap up, over, pinch it tight, push it right into the edge, and then press down in the center. Last step, bone folder. Give everything a good burnish from edge to edge, pushing all the way into the corners. So this kind of helps to square up these edges, and then also just burnishes the paper into the adhesive. Now if you want like a super duper finished box, what you could do is just cut a little 2x2 square and glue that down if you don't like seeing the little edges here. Because my pattern paper is double-sided, well, this actually lined up pretty nearly perfectly aligned, so you don't even really see the second side. But even if you did, like here, so you can see just a little bit of red right there. That was the other side of this green pattern paper. So if you don't like that, what you can do is just cut a little 2x2 square piece of paper and then just glue that into here, and then you'll get like a very, very finished box lid. You could do the same on the bottom too. But these boxes are really great because they're sturdy. They because it's essentially 2 thickness of cardstock, and really simple to make. You can make it in really any size that you want, and you can see the tops, the lids fit really well into the bottom portion. So now I just have 22 more of these boxes to make, and then I'll have a second advent calendar. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Until my next one, have a fantastic day and happy crafting. Bye.